As much as you might want to, and as much as I might want to, editing your own work is not possible. In this video, I'm going to talk about how to make sure that your book gets edited professionally and that it's proofread and ready for release. If you stick around to the end, I'm going to talk about the exact process that I used to find an editor, to make sure that my book was proofread by the right people, that I got good feedback, and how I used all of that to make sure that my final draft was ready for release. My name is Sebring. It's so awesome to have you joining us today. I want to put something in your hands. If you go to lanesebring.com/5steps, I want to give you my free 5-step guide to creating a #1 best-selling book, which I've done. My first book was a #1 bestseller in its category on Amazon. I learned a ton of lessons, and I want to show you those in 5 steps in this guide. Just go to lanesebring.com/5steps. All right, so I want to talk about how to get from first draft to finished product. We got a lot to cover, so I want to dive right in. The first thing you want to do is you want to create a second draft of your book. In a previous video, which I'll link to in the description, we talked about how to write your first draft. If you didn't watch that, you want to go back and make sure you watch that. But at this point, I'm assuming that you have your first draft fully done. That means every chapter, your introduction, your conclusion, all of it is there. You have not yet edited your work, but it's all there and ready to be edited and proofread. So the very first thing you need to do is to comb back through it and develop what's called a second draft. Now, I like to do my second draft before anybody else sees it, because what I don't want to do is send a first draft that's unedited and unproofread by me to someone else. I want to at least give them the best that I can get it before they're looking at it, just to avoid being embarrassed. And also because the way I write my first draft, I don't do any editing at all. So I really need to go back through and edit it. So your first draft is written fully with your writing brain checked on and your editing brain checked off. For the second draft, you just want to reverse that. You want to check on your editing brain and turn off your writing brain, okay? And so you're fully combing through every word, every sentence, every line with your editing brain on. Now, you're going to miss things, and that's totally fine. I'll get into editing your own work here in a second and why I say you always need an editor. But again, we're talking about our second draft prior to professional editing. You want to comb through it and you want to look for grammatical errors, of course, typos, of course, run-on sentences, of course, but your editor is going to catch a lot of that. What you're really looking for is, are these the words that you want to say? Is this the message that you want to communicate? Is this what you want people to feel and know and do as a result of reading your book? So when you edit your own work, you're going to miss typos, you're going to miss sentence structure that's not really readable, and that's okay. Your editor's going to catch that. So what you're focused on is this what I want to communicate? Is this coming from a place inside of me that I really want to get out to the world? And you're doing this through every sentence, every paragraph, every chapter, every section. You're just combing through it, correcting things along the way, rewriting sentences, restructuring paragraphs. This, by the way, is painful and takes a lot of time. To me, writing the first draft is a lot of fun. I get to be creative and I just get to write. The second draft, not as fun because I'm reading through it and I'm having to edit my own work, and it doesn't seem as fresh or exciting or fun. So I don't like to spend a ton of time writing my second draft or really editing my first draft. I just like to get it to a point that I feel like it really is what I want to communicate and then pass it on to the next step. Now, the next step for me, and this is what I recommend for you, is to move on to editing. There's going to be editing and then proofreading. And the reason why I do editing first is I don't want to hand this book to someone and ask them to proofread it if it has not yet been professionally edited. And here's why. If I do that, the proofreaders are going to be focused on the typos and the messes and the sentence structure. I don't really want them to do that. It's kind of a waste of their time. I would much rather pay an editor who's going to do that anyway to get the book professionally edited to where it's at a point that it's ready for someone to take it and proofread it. Before we get to proofreading, let's talk about editing. The first thing is you have to let go of the idea that you can edit your own work. You just can't. You can get it to a point, and you should, as I said. As you're working on your first draft and getting it into a viable second draft, that's about as far as you can take it before you hire someone. There's all kinds of reasons for this. It's because your brain is going to be familiar with your work. You're not going to see certain things. You're not going to see certain errors. You're going to read something and your brain fills in the gaps because of what you intended to say. Someone else is going to see what it actually says, and they're actually going to be able to fix it. And you just can't, and neither can I, and that's not a knock on you or on me. It's just the truth. And the sooner you acknowledge that, the more easy this process is going to be. For me, I got some good advice early on not to try to edit my own work, and so I went out and I found an editor. And what I did is I just Googled editors for Christian authors online. That's what I wanted. I wanted someone who understood my genre, church leadership and church ministry, and I wanted someone who did it professionally. And I found somebody, and it was an awesome experience. It only cost a few $100s for this person to edit my work and send it back to me in a Word document with changes made. And all I had to do was go back through there and either accept or reject their changes. Super simple process. I've never even had a conversation with this person on the phone or in person. It's all been email, but he was awesome and he edited my books and I got them back. Now, if you're like me, this is how I am. I want to do every piece of the book writing process myself, and I've built a system. That's what I'm teaching you how to do. But I do everything from the formatting to the cover design to the title, the subtitle, the chapters, the layout, the front matter, the back matter, everything. I do it all. But I do not edit. The only thing I paid someone else to do was edit the book, and it's the best money that I ever spent. Okay, so go out, find an editor, take your genre, whatever it is, and Google editor for fitness book, editor for nonfiction general audiences, editor for fiction, science fiction, whatever your genre is. Google that, check references. One great resource is called Archangel Inc. From what I remember, they're a little bit on the high end, but they deliver a really good product. They'll map out for you however much you want to do on your own versus have them do it for you. But find an editor and send them your second draft. Depending on what system they're using, they'll edit it. They'll get it back to you. You, as the author in a self-publishing situation, you have full control. Now, there's different kinds of editing. There's line editing, there's copy editing, and then there's comprehensive editing. Now, there might be more than this, but this was the way my editor presented it to me. Now, line editing is literally just what it sounds like. They're going line by line, they're looking at the words, making sure that there is good sentence structure, that there's no typos, there's no misspelled words, there's no mispunctuations, like everything is exactly how it should be, line by line. Then there's copy. This is kind of the words that you're using, what you're saying, does it all make sense? There's other kinds of editing that I might be missing, but what I paid for was comprehensive that just kind of took all of that, the line, the copy, the overall flow of the book, the structure, all of it together. My editor was looking at the whole package of the book, start to finish, line by line, all of its words and copy, and determining, does all this make sense? Is it in his voice? Is this a product that someone could pick up and understand, even if they're not the author? He's looking at all that. So I would encourage you to get a package, an editing package from somebody where they're going to do all that. If somebody says, I only do line, or somebody says, I only do copy, try to figure out, okay, is there someone who could do both? Or can I still afford to have this person do line and someone else do copy? But just make sure that what you're getting is more than just somebody reading for typos. You want somebody who's going to have kind of your ideas in mind, read through it, and make the necessary changes to make it look and feel like a professional work. When that's through, you want to move on to the next step, which is proofreading. What I did for proofreading is I found a few good friends, 2 or 3. And these friends are smart, these friends are readers, these friends know my genre, and these friends understand me and what I'm trying to communicate. And I asked them to read my book. Now, this is a big ask. This is not just kind of, hey, would you take a look at this and let me know what you think? This is, can you read every page of this book? Okay? Now, I would totally recommend, if you can't find people to proofread your book for free, pay for people to proofread your book. This is worth it. Fortunately, for the 2 books that I've written so far, I've had people in my life that have been willing to do this as a favor. I don't know if they're going to do it for my 3rd book. Don't know that I would expect that. but I probably will ask, okay? Because this has been our arrangement for a while and it's worked out. But it is a big ask to ask someone to read your book, to make notations and marks, and then to give it back to you and walk you through their edits. If you've got good friends that care about you and want to see you succeed, it might not be that hard to find people. But if you have to say, hey, would you read my book? I'll pay you $100 to read it and give me your notes, might be worth doing that, and your friends might be more than willing to help you out there. Now, why do you need editing and proofreading? Well, here's the thing. No single editor is going to be good enough to make the book perfect, okay? You don't catch everything. The editor doesn't catch everything. So what you want to do is you want to have a variety of eyes looking at this before the general public does. So you start with it, then you have a professional get it to a professional point, but nobody's perfect, nobody's infallible, they're going to miss things. Then you have a group of people that are reading it and they look at it through a different lens. They're going to give you more feedback, and it kind of triangulates on this book where you've got so many different eyes editing it and checking it for errors that by the time you're ready to release it, it's been through the ringer, and that's what you want. Now, I want to point out that even with all of this, even in traditionally published books that have massive publishing houses behind them and professional editors and teams of proofreaders and editors, there still are mistakes. And so in my second book, there's a pretty embarrassing mistake towards the end of the book that I didn't even catch until I was reading the book for the audio version, and it made me cringe. I mean, it was a glaring typographical error that I was like, how did I miss this? How did my editor miss this? How did my proofreaders miss this? That's crazy. And yet, they missed it. I used the word T-O when I should have used the word T-O-O. Oh, it's cringeworthy to me, and it's embarrassing. But the good news about Amazon, you can go in there, you can fix it, re-upload it, and then it's only from that point on that it's still in the book. But still, it's just painful to have that kind of error in a book. But I just want to say that you can be super thorough and still miss things. So don't think that you're going to find everything when you first release a book. There's going to be things that come up and you're going to just try to correct them. But at least by doing this, by you, a professional editor, and proofreaders, you can really minimize how many mistakes are in a given book. And then by the time you put it out to your first set of readers, you've ensured that it's going to look professional, it's going to feel professional. There might be one or two things here and there that some people may or may not even realize, but the overall thrust and feel and tenor of the book and tone of the book is that you spent time on it, it's professionally edited, it's professionally done, and it's a good product. And you want people to not be distracted by mistakes in the book. You want them to be thinking about the content, you want them to be thinking about the problem you're solving, you want them to be thinking about the value that it's bringing them as the reader. And so I hope this helps as you think about how to take your book from its first draft to ready for release. I would love to hear from you. What stage of the process are you in if you're writing a book right now? Have you found an editor? Have you found proofreaders? Just kind of talk in the comments about that. Any questions that you have about any of these steps and how I might be able to help you further with future videos, I would love to hear about that in the comments. Be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet already, and I will see you in the next one.